Okay, so I have some stuff to explain. I titled the video the way I did for two reasons. One, there's a few of my real life friends who watch this and are new to shooting, and they're actually why I post this stuff, and I want to make learning competitive shooting easier for them by explaining what makes a bad match. Two is that some of my friends and shooting buddies are local, and I want to make sure that none of them ever go to this match. So up front, the problem with this match is the match director has no consistent rules that any of the squads follow. This is a consistent and reoccurring problem that makes measuring performance meaningless because people are not shooting the same stages, and the match staff do not know what the rules are because there are no rules. They all think they know what they think they know, and they absolutely do not agree with one another. Second, and more importantly, this match sets up unsafe behavior with unsafe range layouts, and I have witnessed match staff not correct incidental unsafe behavior that occurs even when it is explicitly brought to their attention. This is also known as negligence, but I wouldn't expect the match director, I believe is Neil, to know what that word means. I shot this match once 2 years ago. I thought it was poorly run then, made some notes about it to that effect, posted a video about it, and moved on. But on the chance that that was like a fluke, I decided to give it another shot. At the match 2 years ago, I was muzzle swept with a loaded rifle. Everyone downrange was. By a shooter who was running a stage. The RO decided not to DQ him at that time for the reason of, yeah, I saw that, but it was pretty quick. I'll tell him to be careful. Not an acceptable response. I was talking with someone also who just pulled their unloaded handgun out of their chest rig holster in the middle of a dense crowd of people, muzzle sweeping multiple people because he wanted to talk about his new trigger. So that is literally the crowd and the level of shooter who shows up at this match, which is to say they're not very good shooters, to be honest with you. I spoke with other Florida shooters I've met at major matches in other states. They actually specifically, without me prompting them, hand to God, they mentioned this match by name as a really bad match because it was, quote, unsafe. And that brings us to today. Whether or not you choose to believe me, I actually went to this one with an open mind, willing to give it another chance. I squatted up with an RO that I know was involved in setting up the match. The safety brief at this match, which is not something that I normally even pay attention to, was very poorly done because it was being done without a script. For example, people were instructed they said, we don't want people calling 911 in case there's a shooting. What they really meant to say, they didn't further explain this, was that they wanted one person to call 911 and handle the 911 response. They didn't say that. What they told was, we don't want 7 people calling 911. Don't everyone call 911 if someone gets shot. A small faux pas, but in the context of what ends up happening here, kind of foreshadowing. This brings me to my very first stage. I was the first shooter here, and I'm actually hammering the shit out of the first target. They weren't calling hits because they thought I was shooting at another target. So that's just like an error from the match staff here. And it cost me like 10 seconds where I stop and have a conversation on the clock with them. I'm like, dude, those were hits. And they were like, oh, you were shooting those. Okay. Small mistake. And honestly, at the time, I was completely just willing to let that one slide. It happens. Not a huge deal, but kind of indicative of need for better process. I want to be super clear about something up front. I am going to be describing some conflicts with ROs throughout this, but I want to be super clear that I don't think the ROs were the problem. I think the ROs were generally good people who were trying their best to honestly apply what they thought were the rules. And for example, one of the ROs that I spoke to, I've actually spoken to in the past about this match in passing, and he assured me that what I saw in the past, 2 years ago, including the inconsistent stage rules, must have just been a one-off thing. And the next time that I shot, I should shoot on his squad. He was running the squad that I'm going to be describing, who shot stages wrong multiple times in front of us. I think he's a good person. I don't think that this match has properly equipped anyone to know what the rules or stage procedures are. And that's a match director problem. That's the match director's responsibility. So we make our way up to stage 5, the next stage, and we see right away that the squad ahead of us didn't follow instructions. The only instructions that ever really exist for any of these stages are the written stage briefs, which are honestly very poorly written, handwritten by people who probably didn't think it through very well, and they're not following a standard set of instructions or rules. And they were shooting it all incorrectly. Everyone recognized that. And this happened again. And later on in the match, squads were not shooting to the stages to the rules. And there was ambiguity or disagreement about what the rules meant. We just ran into that right away, and it's a reoccurring problem with this match. All right, so I took some pictures of the range setup here before the next stage here, just to kind of show that, like, the shooter is, first of all, we're shooting in a landfill. It looks like it's not actually a landfill. It's just an area with a ton of garbage. This range has just got garbage everywhere on it. It looks like trash everywhere because there's trash everywhere. In this stage, you're in a narrow kind of hallway formed by a berm and some trees. You're in a straight line. And this stage, they literally made you go prone with a loaded handgun, pointing a loaded handgun back towards the spectators or your squad behind you. Especially in the context of a match, this is a huge safety violation because anyone who has $20 can just show up and shoot this match. They may have poor functioning gear. They can be very poorly trained. Again, a lot of these shooters were really, they were just bad. I usually am more polite than that, but I'm not going to be polite here. There was a ton of really bad shooters here who didn't know what they're doing and didn't have good gun handling skills, which isn't a problem. I want them to get better, and I want them to have an environment where they can grow and do that. This is not the environment. This is just feeding into poor safety skills. As we exited stage 5, we walked past huge backups for getting onto stage 4. So once again, we were just witnessing that the stage balance was a problem at this match, and that led to huge delays, which is something that's a sign of poor organization. Also, the entrance to stage 3 required shooters to walk downrange from stage 4 in such a way where someone very easily could muzzle sweep them with their rifle, especially if they were transitioning to pistol. Really only the saving grace is that they were probably like more than 50 yards away from it. But to be super clear, no berm between yourself and the shooters who have to traverse. They have to walk back and forth among to get to the next stage, and there's no one paying attention to the muzzle sweeping that's happening and to the people walking to that other stage. This is kind of what I meant, but when I said like this range was unsafe in the way that they were choosing to use it. When we get to stage 1 was like basically a drill where they specified exactly what you had to do, or they tried to, but there was a lot of vagueness in the wording that they used, so much so what happened here, our RO, who is a bold person. I don't think he's a bad person, but I think he will argue for what he thinks is right, even if I believe he was incorrect, but we'll get to that. He tried to assign some procedural penalties or not get some procedural penalties assigned to him. He was wrong on the scoring, honestly. From what I can tell, he was wrong on the scoring for whatever rules there were here, not clear. And he was wrong on the rules for another shooter. This led to a big argument that I got involved in. I was yelling. Everyone was yelling, but like I was getting tired of this shit. The stage description was very bad, and we couldn't decode what they meant for us, and much less assuming that other squads ran it the same way that we chose to. So this was one that suffered from poor stage description, and people were just kind of trying to do their best to interpret what they thought we had to do based on the RO's interpretation of how this match was, quote, run. To be super clear, other ROs that we asked in passing disagreed and said, no, we would do it the other way. So again, consistency problem. That's not a problem for the ROs. That's a problem for match director. Match director should have clear directions and expectations flowing to his match staff. And if that's not the case, guess what? Neil's a bad fucking match director. I didn't get video for the rest of the stages. So, probably just pop some random visuals in the background here. So stage 2 was just a very simple long-range stage where you're navigating a rifle and shooting at like 200 yards. Navigating a ladder with your rifle. Thing I'll mention here is I kind of lost my temper around that stage because they were asking us, as they were instructed to, not a problem with the ROs. I felt bad that the RO felt that I was mad at him here. He was telling people to put his safety on between positions, and I fucking, I did it, but afterwards I lost it. Not professional of me, but whatever. Saying like, dude, we literally just got finished pointing guns to loaded guns at each other 200 yards that way. And now you're trying to say like, hey, we're a super safe match. We put our safety on when navigating between rifle positions that are literally 12 inches apart. Like, the level of amateur hour disconnect from reality on display here is like, it's very frustrating, and it's part of what makes this a bad match. Stage 3, our last stage, we got up there, and the squad before us was doing things incorrectly. Our RO then corrected them on what he thought they were supposed to be doing, and about half of them then shot a different stage. They were going to the wrong spot to shoot their rifle, substantially closer. They were doing much less travel, having a different target presentation, And once again, this is a problem with clear stage descriptions and communication, and just frankly planning and forethought. There was none of it put into this match. Also, what happened on stage 3 on my squad, a person spun around with a loaded handgun before they had finished actually completely holstering it, despite us being explicitly warned and told to not do that like 3 or 4 times by our ROs. And they didn't DQ him. They just gave him, a little bit of a talk, which I don't think is acceptable. Again, this is safety errors on top of safety errors everywhere here, where it's like, dude, this is not good. And then I already mentioned this, but the stage 3 exit was downrange of stage 4 shooting area. So as we're exiting, of course, you have the potential to get muzzle swept because you're in an off angle, but definitely downrange of someone who's shooting a stage. And as they sling their rifle and transition to pistol, especially, and spin 90 degrees, generally gravity will keep their muzzle down in such a way where they probably weren't going to swing you, but they definitely could have. Certainly was an issue, and it certainly was indicating them using their space poorly. So that's it. At some of the other matches I've been to, no match is ever completely perfect. If one thing like this, with the exception of the loaded handgun prone thing, it happened at like any other match, maybe any single event, it would have just been water off a duck's back and like, hey, nothing's perfect, but we're pretty on track here. This doesn't happen often. We're doing great. No, this one suffers from, again, organization and negligence from the top down. And honestly, it gives all competitive shooting a bad name. I honestly think that if you regularly attend or shoot this match, that helps explain why you're not progressing as a shooter. And I know you're not, because I've seen the scores. Sorry. Bye.